Hey everyone, I'm back with another video, and for this video I'm going to talk about a blog made by Kevin. This video is supposed to be a short video because it's not meant to act as a replacement for Kevin's blog. I say supposed to be because I don't script my videos and I might go from tangent to tangent and the video might end up as another 50-minute video. So I won't know how long the video is until I finish editing, but it is supposed to be a short video. If you follow the Sakuga community pretty closely, you probably know who Kevin is. Whether it's Sakuga Boru or Sakuga blog, you'll know the names such as Kevin, Purple Get, and Kampf. So since this video is only going to touch on the key points, I highly recommend you read Kevin's blog. Like, even if I wanted to, I won't be able to go with the same level of detail as Kevin does with his blog, because I'm just not as knowledgeable as Kevin is. That's just it. Some people ask me in the comment section, at least one comment in every video goes, how do you have so much information about all this stuff? Are you part of the industry yourself? No, I'm not part of the anime industry. There are people out there with more knowledge who share information. I just study that information. It's that simple. So if you have any bit of interest in learning more about the Sakuga industry or just the anime industry in general, then start with this blog and then just go from there. It's a pretty deep rabbit hole, but when you come out of the rabbit hole, you'll come out a Sakuga connoisseur. So this blog by Kevin is about the sheer level of competition in the industry currently chasing a full Sakuga show. Full Sakuga shows are shows that is full Sakuga. Literally every single scene has ton of effort put into it animation wise. So a very good example of this would be Space Dandy. Came out in 2013 or 2014. I don't really remember when it came out, but to this day, it is still one of the best animated, if not the best animated show of all time. And it was only possible because the directors, Shinichiro Watanabe and Shingo Natsume. That's right, two directors, two extremely big name directors. Shinichiro Watanabe himself just commands such a high level of respect in the industry, and add on that Shingo Natsume, who's just an industry veteran animator and like one of the best renowned action directors out there. And when both of them combine their works, you get something like Space Dandy. Pretty much the entire industry of freelance veteran animators wanted to work on Space Dandy, and also it sparked the beginning of the generation of webgen animators. I think it's the first work of Bahijeri ever. Now Bahijeri is like an actual big name in the industry. And then in 2015, we got One Punch Man Season 1. No Shinichiro Watanabe this time, but we do have Shingo Natsume, and pretty much, again, the entire industry of freelance animators worked on this show. It's a completely different studio, Studio Bones, and now it's Studio Madhouse, but it's still the same animators. Even Yutaka Nakamura worked on it, even though it's a Madhouse project, so he worked under a pen name since he's only allowed to really work for Studio Bones. He's contracted by Studio Bones. But since he has good connections with the staff, not the studio. He has never worked for Madhouse before as far as I know. But he still worked in it because he has a pretty good relationship with Shingo Natsume. Full Sakuga shows they require core talent who are veterans. One Punch Man Season 1, just take the example of that. You had a bunch of freelance webs and animators. Like you had Bahijeri, as I said. And you also had like a couple of scenes by Tatsuya Shihara, who at that time was not a big name veteran. Right now, he's one of the biggest names in the industry already. I think he's like 27 years old. It's fucking crazy how big he is now at that young age. He's the action director of Chainsaw Man, by the way, if you didn't know. And every scene in One Punch Man Season 1 looked fucking gorgeous because of the sheer number of freelance webs and animators that worked in it. But that was only possible, really, because they have core veteran animators like Yoshimichi Kameda, one of the main forces of One Punch Man, and you also had Arifumi Imai animating some incredible sequences. You also had Keiichiro Watanabe, also had Toshiyuki Sato. You get the idea. In the next year, 2016, we again go back to Studio Bones, this time with Mob Psycho 100. Again, most of the freelance talent from One Punch Man Season 1 just straight pushed into Mob Psycho 100. A bunch of freelance webtoon animators worked on it, and a bunch of absolutely talented veterans also worked on it. Again, Keiichiro Watanabe worked here, and since it's a Studio Bones project, Yutaka Nakamura also worked here. Even Norio Matsumoto. I never thought I would ever watch an anime that has cuts by both Yutaka Nakamura and Norio Matsumoto, but I mean, Mob Psycho 100 did it. It's fucking crazy. The star of the show, again, Yoshimichi Kameda, the chief animation director and the character designer. These veteran animators acting as core staff members, they provide the base, and from there, young webgeners can really shine. That was not it for 2016 though. 2016 also had Flip Flappers, another full Sakuga passion project, and it was a studio that I'd never heard of before. I don't think anyone heard of Studio 3 Hertz before, and it was a fucking amazing looking show. Even Arifumi Imai worked on Flip Flappers, and he did not work on Mob Psycho 100, and that is kind of the point here. Two extremely high-level projects trying to recruit veteran animators as core members. And since the entire industry is like one big family of freelance animators, they'll have to make a choice which project that they're going for, since both of them are just so huge. Arifumi Imai chose Flip Flappers, and more importantly, he chose Attack on Titan, the second season of which came out in 2017, so he was probably busy in 2016 working on that. And so he could not work on Mob Psycho. Would he have worked on Mob Psycho otherwise? Probably, yeah. I mean, he has no reason to not work on it. He's never worked on Bones before, but he'd also never worked on Madhouse before, so I don't really see why he wouldn't really work on Mob Psycho had he gotten the opportunity that he didn't get, since he was busy with Attack on Titan and in his free time did Flip Flappers. Fast forward to 2022. Every show looks amazing now because producers want a piece of that. They want a piece of that good animation, since good animation is getting praised more and more. Appreciating animation is becoming mainstream now, though it's mostly just people yelling about budget. I don't really want to get into that right now. Minimize the number of tangents for this video. But these producers, they don't understand the situation and the condition that the animators are in when they're working on these full Sakuga shows. There's an extremely high level of demand, but there are only so many veteran animators in the industry. You can't really just become a veteran immediately. And you need veterans in your project, or you can't really give the webgen freelancers a chance. My literal favorite animation scene in Jujutsu Kaisen was animated by Workreek. He was 17 when he worked on this scene. That is nuts to even think about, but what you really need to understand is how he got this opportunity in the first place. That is because Hironori Tanaka was the episode director and the animation director for that episode. Hironori Tanaka is one of the most prolific names in the industry. He's a brilliant animator himself. And since he's the animation director, that's just such a huge confidence boost for all of the webgen animators working in the episode. Would Workreek have gotten an opportunity to work on such an important scene if not for veteran animators being core members? Maybe not. Of course, there's exception like Attack on Titan the final season where junior freelance animators are working on very important scenes. But I mean, that's a rare case. That's a rare scenario. They are desperate for any bit of Sakuga possible, so they are giving opportunities to young freelancers. That's not actually a good thing. That is showing the producers that you can give an absolutely atrocious production schedule and the team will just still get the job done. That's not a very good thing to promote. Again, I'm going on a tangent. Pull myself back. Jujutsu Kaisen, while super high profile, was not a full Sakuga show. What is a full Sakuga show, however, is going to be Chainsaw Man for MAPPA. And Chainsaw Man definitely has a bunch of core staff members who are veterans in the industry. Chainsaw Man is in good hands and it's gonna look absolutely fucking incredible. The director is Ryo Nakayama, who is an animator himself. He also directed episode 19 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which had a bunch of webgen animators and veteran animators. It looked fucking incredible. You watched Jujutsu Kaisen, you watched episode 19. It was fucking awesome. Yeah. Just as important as the director is the action director of Chainsaw Man, Tatsuya Yoshihara. On top of that, Hironori Tanaka and Keiichiro Watanabe are core members, plus a bunch of freelance webgen animators. But Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is also in production, and Keiichiro Watanabe, Hironori Tanaka, and Tatsuya Yoshihara were core members of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1. So how the fuck is Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 gonna be made? It's like an internal conflict in the studio on which team will get the main animators. They are not part of the studio, these are all freelancers, but still there's an internal strife within the studio. I'm guessing Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is not even in production, because if it is, I really have no idea how they're progressing without Keiichiro Watanabe, Hironori Tanaka, and Tatsuya Yoshihara. Of course, this is an internal conflict. There is also external conflict, because Mob Psycho Season 3 is also in production, and Tatsuya Yoshihara has not really worked on Mob, but Keiichiro Watanabe and Hironori Tanaka have, and they were pretty important in Mob Psycho's production. This scene by Hironori Tanaka in particular being one of my favorite scenes in all of anime. Right now, he's busy working on Chainsaw Man, so I don't know if either of them are gonna work on Mob Psycho Season 3. If they don't, it's gonna be a loss for Mob Psycho 100. But Mob Psycho Season 3 is still gonna look amazing. They still have Yoshimichi Kameda. They still have Yutaka Nakamura, who I'm hoping will animate this time. He didn't animate in Season 2 because he was focused on My Hero Academia. Again, another internal conflict here within Studio Bones because My Hero Academia is also a pretty big project. You can see now how this is affecting the industry. Too many shows look good, and as stupid as it sounds, that is a bad thing. You might be thinking it's a good thing because to get veteran animators as core staff members, you can pay them more. Well, yes, but actually no. Because Japanese animators, they are paid in two ways. Number one, on a per cut basis, and number two, there's a particular thing called binding fees associated with their work. So imagine if a high profile show contacts an animator and they're like, we'll pay you double the money. They mean double the money in the per cut basis, which might sound appealing at first, but then you realize that the average animator is paid 2,000 to 5,000 yen per cut. That is $20 to $50 per cut. So double the money. Wow, that's $40 to $100 per cut. Bravo, a real steal there. For those of you right now who actually think, yeah, that is a good deal. It's not really at all. Because since you're gonna work for a high profile show, since every scene is gonna look amazing, since every scene is gonna have complex storyboarding, the animation is gonna be really hard. The cuts are gonna be very complicated. You're gonna have to spend triple or quadruple the effort per cut. So it's just double the money for quadruple the effort. So it's clearly not worth it. And that's right, as far as it's a per cut basis, there won't be any extra money given based on the complexity of a cut. That is entirely the wish of the animator if they want to make a cut look good. You could animate in a shitty way, you could animate in an awesome way. You'd get paid the same amount of money as long as it's just one cut. The exception being a binding fees. A binding fees is an extra amount of money that's given to the animator depending on how much effort they're putting into it. For example, let's say My Hero Academia's third movie. Norimichi Suzuki worked 3 cuts. If he goes getting paid on a per cut basis, that is $150 in max. But he definitely had a binding fees associated with his work because one of those cuts is 58 seconds long and it is the best animated cut in the history of 2D animation. I made an entire video talking about it. I'll put it up here. And yeah, it's fucking amazing. There's no way he was paid on a per cut basis for it. There was no way that cut was worth $50. But as a webgen animator just starting off in the industry, you can't expect your work to come with a binding fees. Think from a production standpoint. You can't organize a binding fee for the hundreds of animators who are going to work in a project. You're going to give a binding fees to a select number of veterans who have connections to the director. So as an animator, it makes way more sense to go for the binding fees by going into projects in which you have connections with the staff members instead of chasing a higher amount of per cut fees. And that is why connections in the industry is way more important than budget to make a show look good, that is. Kevin in his blog uses the example of Cloverworks to show this fucked up situation, and it is really, really abysmal. It is horrifying, particularly for one person named Kerorira. Try saying that 3 times very fast. Kerorira, Kerorira, Kerorira. That's actually pretty easy. But I'm just going to call her Kiyoki Rikuta because that is her actual name and it's easier to say anyway. So Kiyoki Rikuta debuted in 2018 in the anime industry, which is pretty recent. She was a pretty big component of One Direct Priority. She did a lot of work in it. And One Direct Priority looked fucking amazing. Like most Cloverworks shows, it's a pretty high profile show. Cloverworks is a pretty passionate studio as far as animation goes. So they're going to try and make every show that they work on look as good as possible, with certain exceptions. But just as beautiful as One Direct Priority is on the outside, it is just as fucked up on the inside. One Direct Priority did not have a good production schedule whatsoever. It was literally putting staff in the hospital. And the team that worked on One Direct Priority immediately started working on My Dress Up Darling. One Direct Priority aired at the beginning of 2021. My Dress Up Darling aired at the beginning of 2022. So that's less than a year they had to work on My Dress Up Darling. Another pretty high profile show. It looks amazing. Doesn't look as good as One Direct Priority, but maybe it was supposed to look just as good. Just couldn't because of production drawbacks. Kiyoki Rikuta also worked on My Dress Up Darling, again a pretty big role. She was the episode director for an episode, she also animated the opening. She's also doing the promo material for My Dress Up Darling. That's a pretty significant role. But that's not all that Cloverworks is doing. Airing simultaneously with My Dress Up Darling was AKB Sailor Uniform, which also looked amazing. Yes, it has a different core staff compared to One Direct Priority and My Dress Up Darling. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be possible. There's no way it would be possible to make AKB Sailor Uniform and My Dress Up Darling simultaneously while the team had just worked on One Direct Priority. But still, since Cloverworks is not such a big studio, there is a good amount of intermixing of animators between AKB Sailor Uniform and My Dress Up Darling, even though the core staff is different. But Kiyoki Rikuta worked on AKB Sailor Uniform as well. She animated in an episode. Not all that much work, but she still animated a scene while she had just finished working on One Direct Parody and while she was working on My Dress Up Darling. That is fucking crazy. Does it end there? No, because Cloverworks is doing another anime called Bocchi the Rock, which is set to air in 2022, this year. Bocchi the Rock is going to be another very high profile show. I'm kind of looking forward to it because it's going to look amazing. But now that I know the condition of the staff going into this, I almost don't even want the anime to be made. Is Kiyoki Rikuta going to be working on Bocchi the Rock? Yes, she is. And she's the fucking character designer. Arguably the most important role in anime production, and she's doing it while she just finished working on My Dress Up Darling. Probably started character designing for Bocchi the Rock while she was still working on My Dress Up Darling. But the good news is AKB Sailor Uniform finished airing, so the team that worked on AKB Sailor Uniform can probably help with Bocchi the Rock. Oh no, wait a second, they're working on Spike's Family. Cloverworks, what the fuck? I read this in Kevin's blog and I felt physical pain and sadness for all of these animators. It's of course the worst for junior animators, but in this case, it's also horrible for the in-house members who are working on these projects. Their passion is being exploited by producers who don't understand how the industry works. So they just keep pushing project after project. And this will not be fixed anytime soon. So is there an objectively good way to deal with this situation? Is there an objective right in the industry? Yes, just look at the success that KyoAni and Ufotable are having. Why are they so successful? Because they actually have in-house members. They don't have to deal with the pressure of recruiting veteran animators for every single project. Because they have veteran animators. They treat animator as an actual job and give animators an actual wage by hiring them. Fucking crazy to even think about, isn't it? And that is clearly working. Ufotable will always have Masayuki Kunihiro acting as their backbone. They also have a very good connection with Nozomu Abe, who's supposed to be a freelancer, but he has such a good connection with Ufotable that he'll always put his Ufotable works above the rest of his works. He usually only works for like 2 studios, Ufotable and Shaft. He did work in Fire Force, but that's because a lot of Studio Shaft's members worked for David Productions in Fire Force, so he just animated the opening for Fire Force, but that's it. He also animated a scene for Madhouse in Tucked Up Destiny, which is, I don't even know why he did that. But among all of his side projects, his main project is still his works with Ufotable, because I'm sure that most of his work with Ufotable comes with a binding fees. He is their star animator, even though he's not part of Ufotable. The downside of this is frequency of projects. While Mappa and Cloverworks are doing half a dozen shows every year, Ufotable and KyoAni can do 2 maximum. These studios, KyoAni and Ufotable, probably rank pretty high in the production committee, so they get a good amount of money when their show ends up being a success. So it's not ideal for production committees to partner with these studios. They can just throw another show at Mappa because it's just another show. They're going to do it, and it's going to look above average in quality, and they're going to make a fucking ton of money. And that was the case a decade ago, even 5 years ago. Right now, the demand for high quality anime is so high that Ufotable and KyoAni, they're going to keep getting offers. Even with the low frequency of projects that they're releasing, it does not deter their progress. Other studios are not going to do this because they don't have to. They can just abuse the passion of animators and just pump out more anime. Eventually, it's just going to result in more shows crashing and burning, like 86. 86 had no right to look even a little bit good, but the staff just pushed through with sheer passion. Kevin also made an article about 86, so hey, if you watch 86, definitely read about that. But yeah, either more projects are gonna crash and burn, or the competition is gonna be so high that the per cut fees that animators get from working in anime is just going to be increased to competent levels, like 15 to 20,000 yen, which is the money that animators usually earn from working in movies or like anime commercials or like video game cutscenes and stuff. It's just weird that anime industry pays so little, just considering the fact that the anime industry makes a ridiculous amount of money, and the building blocks of the industry, the animators, are paid like shit. And that's about it. That's pretty much the entire situation summarized. I highly recommend, again, that you go read Kevin's article. But yeah, next time you watch a scene like this and say, oh my god, Studio Bones, and watch a scene like this and say, oh my god, Studio Mappa, just remember that you're wrong, because both these scenes are animated by the same animator. What you actually have to wonder is how the fuck Hironori Tanaka is working on so many projects simultaneously. Really, Hironori Tanaka, I need to make a video on him, because you'll see him everywhere, and I mean everywhere. One day you'll see him working in the Fate Heaven's Feel movies, and the next day you'll see him work in 7 Deadly Sins Season 3. But yeah, that's about it. Anime is just getting better, and that's not good. If you enjoyed the video, found it thought-provoking, leave a like. If you did not like the video, then leave a dislike and tell me down in the comment section why you disliked it, and tell me whatever you want in the comment section. That's why it's for. If you want to watch more of these videos, subscribe. There's more content coming up. That's about it. Thanks for the views.